My degree is not in finance, but nonetheless, I can look at history and I can talk about dynasties that were created that lasted hundreds of years. You mentioned the Rothschilds. That's one of them. You know, you're looking at everything from the Arnault family to the royal family. And what do those stories tell us? They tell us about people who understood wealth and how to preserve wealth over time. How they did that was they found assets that would appreciate beyond what they were being debased, and they would never sell those assets. You know, right now, historically, the cost of capital is around 11%. If you look at the S&P 500 over several decades now, that's a big hurdle rate. You look at inflation. I think of inflation as the expansion of money supply, and that's 7%. It's 7% over the last 100 years on average. I look at these numbers and I'm thinking to myself, how do I beat that? Traditionally, what these families that we were talking about did was they purchased land or property, and then they educated their family, and they actually did this. As the years went by, they created banks. The Rothschild, of course, the famous banking family, because that's a great way to make money, and lending out other people's monies. We, as Bitcoiners, we have something that every bank would want. We have something when we hold Bitcoin that every nation state's going to want. We have we call it pristine collateral, and it is unencumbered. And if you look at its rate of return, it's CAGR, cumulative annual growth rate, which I forgot to mention, by the way. So as an aside, talking about a tenth of a Bitcoin, you know, cumulative interest is really hard for people to understand. It's just difficult. And it's because it happens so quickly at the end. You know, you can take Bitcoin's CAGR, cumulative annual growth rate, and go, if you're online right now, you can just type in reverse CAGR calculator or do it on ChatGPT and put in a tenth of a Bitcoin, 10 grand. And then put in for what I'm going to say is 20 years, okay? Because that's when it just goes insane. Put it in for 20 years. Now you pick your own rate that you think Bitcoin's going to grow over the next 20 years. I put down, you know, if you use 55% where it's gone for the last 5 years, it's been 55%. If you put that in there, it comes out to 64 million bucks. But let's just say that, and this was the pushback, and I think it's valid. Let's just say that there really are decreasing returns going forward. Now, I think that there's decreasing volatility going forward, but I'm not sure that there is decreasing returns. But let's just say you believe it and you put in 40%. It still comes out to, I think it's like $8.5 million. And if you had, in today's purchasing power, if you had $8 million, you were sitting right now where you're sitting and you had $8 million, you could use that so that you never had to sell anything again. You could keep that, if you could stay in the fiat world and use that $8 million right now, even in just short-term treasuries, you'd never have to, you'd have all the money you need right now to live through this year. And I think that we're going to have a much better system going forward. Right now, with the repeal of SOB 121, in the next 12 to 24 months, we are going to see a massive avalanche of lending products coming into our space. And I know that we all have PTSD from 22, and we're all going, and you should remember, Bitcoin does not generate yield, no yield. If you hold it on a hardware wallet, it's just like a stick of gold in my hand right now. You don't get any yield off of it. So if you're getting yield, it's coming from somewhere. And it's up to you as an adult and as the head of your world, it's up to you to find out what that yield is coming from. If that's the case, there is a very good chance that you're going to be able to live at some point for the rest of your life off your Bitcoin, never sell a sat. You know, that kind of goes in hand with my philosophy. I mean, I've worked hard for my Bitcoin. I mean, I've worked my ass off. I've sat there staring at a ceiling. You know, I understand what I hold, and it's in my fucking fist right here. My Bitcoin's in my fist, and good luck prying that thing out of there. You're going to have to work at it. And the reason I say that is because I intend to keep it. Now, I'm not talking about circular economy where I buy some Bitcoin. I've done that. I bought it, put it on a wallet, fill and spend. You know, I put it on a wallet, I spent it. Spent like a drunken sailor down in El Salvador. So I believe in that. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the generational wealth that you store as a wealth something to give to your family. That's going to remain with me. And as these products come along, you are going to be able to earn yield on them. You're just going to have to decide how much that you're willing to let go, how much you're willing to risk, and what you demand for that. I'm going to demand a lot. And before, people just poo-poo this idea, I've talked about this in the past. Strategy is going to become, what was MicroStrategy, is going to become the world's largest bank. I'm absolutely convinced of it. I figured that out a long time ago. And I stack like a son of a bitch for that too. I'm having fun playing with it. It's not Bitcoin, and I'd sell it in a heartbeat before I sold any Bitcoin, but it's fun to play with. I'm enjoying it. So what I'm going to say is that I intend, just as Michael talks about, using these banks that he discusses and that Hal Finney talked about in 2010. Go to the Bitcoin Talk forum. He discusses that tokenized banks built on Bitcoin. I intend to use them, and if they want my Bitcoin, I'll decide what I'm comfortable with, whether it's rehypothecation, or if I tell them, nope, that's not happening, I want multi-sig, whatever it is, and I'm willing to get the yield that they'll give me. So I hope that kind of answers the question of, how I feel about this idea of die, borrow, or buy, borrow, die dynasty, because I just add the dynasty part of it. I think that we can do this as Bitcoiners. I think you're sitting right now, you in particular, you're going to create generational wealth. Your family's going to talk about you. Someday when you're my age, you got grandkids running around, they're going to go look at you and they're going to ask you, what did you do during the 22 market meltdown? You're going to say, I bought Bitcoin. And that kid's going to look at you and he's go, fucking legend. That's going to be you. It's going to be other people that are like that. Fucking legend. And there are people that are going to be in gratitude for what Bitcoiners like myself and others are doing right now. You got to stack for other people.
Yeah, could not agree more, George. You studied, Bitcoin for, thousands of hours. You got in, you came back to it, restudied just to, ensure your conviction of it. But the average person really is not going to put that work in or have time to do it, whatever the reason is. Like, how has Bitcoin changed you? I mean, because like we all have this story. I mean, like you were such an accomplished human before this, obviously in Top Gun, flying for Delta Airlines, you're painting now, like you're such an accomplished person. And like you said before, like this definitely, and you look like the most interesting man in the world. So you are, and you look like the most interesting man in the world. So how is it, as the Max Kaiser saying goes, you don't change Bitcoin, Bitcoin changes you. How has Bitcoin changed you?
Well, first off, I'm just a pleb. I mean it. I'm like an 80 IQ pleb. And think of me as a guy that's in the trenches. I mean, I got my armor on. I'm a warrior. If you've ever looked at the Emperor Shi Huang in 200 BC with all those terracotta clay soldiers, 8,000 of them. Have you ever seen that where they're buried in the ground? That is incredible. They've been sitting in there for, they've been in there for 2,000 years just waiting. And some farmers in the 70s discovered them and they started digging them up. And they tour, by the way, in the U.S. If you ever get a chance, you need to go to one of the tours if it comes to a museum near you. But anyway, that's me. I'm just down there in the trenches. There are some really smart people. A lot of people don't know this, but they've found 6 of them so far. There's 6 generals in there with those troops. And they look different. And they're the smart guys. They're people like Booth. I mean, he's Jeff Booth. He's one of those guys. He's kind of directing people. But I'm just a pleb. But, the thing is that Bitcoin's just freed me up. I used to, like I told you, before 2008, I'm just working my ass off constantly, always trying to somehow preserve, build wealth. What a pain in the ass. And now look at me. I mean, I'm sure you'll go to a full screen of my video and post-production. You can see where I'm sitting. You know what? I don't have to worry about anything right now. I'm just enjoying my life. I just took up scuba diving. I'm painting, I'm creating work here. Some of these paintings you see, they'll be here for 200, 300 years. I mean, they're not going anywhere. And they're built on archival products that will last. And I'm just enjoying life. I don't have to do any of that running around on that hamster wheel that we talked about. I just want to give people the idea that that can be you too. I'm not saying you don't have to put in work. You're working your ass off right now. You're probably going to daycare. You might be listening to this thinking, this guy's yeah, that's for you. Well, this can be you too. I did have to put a lot of work in. I mean, I didn't get here. I didn't teleport myself from where the hell I was to here. I didn't go into a magic warp tunnel and get here. I worked my ass off to get here. So you got to work, and you've got to study. And, if you don't have time, if you're busy and you're just sitting there going, man, I'm already overwhelmed, then, maybe just listen to podcasts like this. Do what you can to get some. If you got a 401k plan, get something into Bitcoin. Right now, BlackRock, Fidelity, these are a lot smarter people than I am. They're recommending you hold Bitcoin inside your retirement. So do it. Just get off your ass and do it. And, someday you'll be sitting here like, I'm just relaxed in life. I don't know how to explain. It's like, and I don't give a shit what these other people do. You talk about politics and stuff. I don't care. You know what? I don't give a shit what the Fed does. I don't, and that, they can print a bunch of those little pieces of confetti. I don't really care. You can do whatever you want. Well, you want to have that freedom. It's like, you just want to be free and you want to be able to relax. At some point in your life, you're going to want to look back and you're going to go, I just want to take a deep breath here. I want to go play with my grandkids. I want to go take them somewhere and, have them sit on my knee and tell me I'm a legend and just have fun.
If you like that clip, then you definitely got to check out this next spicy clip. I think you're really going to like it. Come on, check it out. But if you want the full version, the full interview, then check that out over here. Come on, do it. I'll see you in there.